Greg, Irish Distillers Brand Homes. How has 2024 treated you so far?
Hi, Owen. Good to see you today. So far, so good. At some point, I think we'll probably stop referencing COVID. But in our business, that's the reference point that we use when we talk about our performance. So if 2019 was the pre-COVID phase, 2021 was the low point. We have grown every year since 2020, from that low point of 2021. We've grown in 22, 23, and into 24.
Great.
As we stand in 24, from a volume perspective, from a visitor perspective, we're back to that 2019 pre-COVID level. And then from a value perspective, thankfully to say, we're actually quite a bit ahead of where we were pre-COVID. So visitor and volume sort of where we finally got back to where we were, but actually from a value perspective, we're now quite a bit ahead.
Great. And has the market mix changed? Is the value gone up because are there more Americans, for example, who are kind of bigger spenders, say, than Europeans, or is the market mix much the same and just the value has gone up in terms of visitor spend?
I think, yeah, the market mix, we still obviously have a really strong proportion of our visitors come from the US, and they definitely have a strong dollar and they spend strongly. I think the other thing that is driving our business, we're sort of echoing the broader Irish whiskey market. So we're a visitor attraction, but within Irish whiskey, there's a real move towards premiumization. So people are spending more on rare, collectible, higher price point whiskies. So we're reflecting that obviously in our shops, in our bars. We also look after Irish Distillers e-commerce. So we see that in spend. So yeah, it's definitely those US consumers are part of it. And when they're in our shops, they're buying more expensive bottles of whiskeys. And we're also reflecting that sort of premiumization in the type of tours that we're offering. So we have introduced more premium experience. Like recently, we introduced the taste table experience in Bow Street, and it's that more premium whiskies paired with beautiful chocolates. You have to do it all. Come in,
of course,
You're invited, and that's at a higher price point. But also, I suppose, worth saying that within that premiumization, our most popular experience is still our entry level experience. At a very accessible price.
And I know from the visitor attraction space, like the admission price is relatively modest for the experience the visitor gets. So that sort of secondary spend in terms of retail or food, or as you say, the premium offer is so important, isn't it, to the commercial well-being of visitor attractions?
Absolutely, and you're of course you don't want to price yourself out of it by having too high of an entry point. So I think, people come, they learn about our brands, they meet our team, but then actually, of course, they get to spend some time in our shop, in our bar. So that's really, really important.
And Greg, talk to me a little bit about the domestic market. How important is that to both sides?
A really important part. It was a particularly important part during COVID, where, of course, for all of us, our domestic customer increased. But a really important part, we probably recognize that we can develop our domestic market more, and particularly in that maybe off-peak shoulder season. I think there's an opportunity there. Just last Sunday, we had a beautiful event in Midleton, which was to coincide with the switching on of the Christmas lights in Midleton. And we invited in our neighbours in the community we had cocktails and we had carol singing and we had Christmas lights, and it was more of I suppose a community piece for our local audience. So I think that's something that we can do more of. In Bow Street at the moment, we have a sort of low-key DJ on a Friday evening, and again, I suppose we're now into that shoulder season, so that's not aimed at our normal target market. That's actually more at our community here in Smithfield and inviting people in to have a nice evening. So it is really important, though, and I think we recognise that it's an area that we could develop more.
Talk to us a little bit about the Midleton Distillery, because you had that terrible flood this time last year, effectively, was it? And obviously, we saw it on the news. It absolutely destroyed Midleton as a town, and obviously yourselves got significant damage. But you've done wonderful work to reopen it. Tell us a little bit about that sort of trauma, if I'm not going back and triggering PTSD, tell us about the positive news in terms of it reopening.
Yeah, there is a positive side to it. There definitely is. We've come out the other side of it, but you really, you couldn't actually write what happened. We spent many years planning on the redevelopment of our Midelton Brand Home. We started pre-COVID, and then we had to put it on hold for COVID. And then we spent a sort of concerted 18 months redeveloping our beautiful brand home. We opened in September last year. At the end of September, we had a wonderful event. Our global CEO, Alexandre Ricard, he attended. Micheál Martin, the Taoiseach. We had an official opening at the end of September. And then 2.5 weeks later, the devastating Storm Babbitt hit the town of Midleton. So devastating for us, our team, our neighbours, the community in Midleton. Just a horrendous event. The storm waters rose to waist height.
Yeah.
And just, a huge impact on ourselves, but obviously on our neighbours and the community. Sort of hard to actually believe what happened, that would happen.
It was nearly biblical, wasn't it, in terms of the rain and the flooding and the downpour and the water everywhere.
Yeah, I'm sure you saw the footage from the news coverage. So I suppose the story is of the devastating damage is the main story. The second story, I think, is how people recovered. But that to give an idea of what happened, water was up to waist height within the brand home and within the town of Midleton and within the shops and the community. That water then subsided, and I suppose you probably have that little moment when something like that happens, when the water subsides. You've that little moment where you hope that maybe the damage won't be as bad.
Yeah.
But the actual impact of that kind of flooding is that everything below that level needs to be replaced. That was the assessment for ourselves and for many of our neighbours. So our construction partners, PJ Hegarty, they assessed that it would take another 5 months to rebuild what we had just spent 18 months building.
Wow.
We shut the place down, and we went about putting it back together again. Our team did an amazing job. They took off their brand homes uniforms and they swapped them. They put on their old gear and their Wellingtons and their gloves and started cleaning the place out. We moved up to the back of our site to an old warehouse because we recognised that if we stayed closed for 5 months, it wouldn't be sustainable for our business or for our team.
Yeah.
So we moved into a temporary warehouse up the back, and I suppose credit to our team, within 6 weeks, we were actually back open again after the flood in that temporary facility.
Yeah.
And then within the 5 months, PJ Hegarty's were good to their word. We reopened in March of this year. So our story, I think, is reflected within many other businesses. So.
And then how has trading been in Midleton since you reopened?
Thankfully, trading has been really, really strong. So we got to open in March. Our visitors have returned, our community have returned and have come in to see our beautiful new brand home. So we're trading really, really well.
Yeah, great. Is Irish whiskey still having its moment in the sun globally, in terms of exports and in terms of, penetration of new markets? There was a lot of talk, new brands opening, and then you had, traditional hero brands such as yourselves. Is it still in a really strong place and kind of going toe to toe, I suppose, with Scotch?
Irish whiskey is, it's had phenomenal growth over the last couple of decades. And notable markets will be like the US market and growth in the US market. But I suppose despite those decades of growth, it still has enormous headroom still to grow. So if you think within the broader drinks whiskey category, Scotch, American whiskey, they're still more substantial. So the room to grow. Yeah. And as you referenced, Jameson has obviously been a big part of the growth of the category, but there are so many new entrants, and it's a very vibrant category. So I think we've a long way to go before we will tap out in terms of our growth.
Yeah. Yeah, well, great. Yeah, loads of potential, loads of headroom. Just in terms of 2025, Greg, kind of looking forward and wearing your tourism and your visitor experience hat, what are your sort of expectations for, Bow Street and Smithfield and Midleton, and I suppose just overall, any thoughts about the Irish tourism sort of, its outlook to the future?
We're optimistic looking into 2025. We are, I suppose, what I referenced there in terms of our Midelton Distillery Experience. With the flood, we reopened in March, but we feel like we felt like we were a bit late to the party in terms of
Yeah,
2024, in terms of opening. So as we look ahead to 2025, it'll be the first year of our beautiful new brand home. So that gives us a real reason to be optimistic looking into
yeah,
the 2025. I know that our business development and marketing teams will be really busy spreading the word, because we believe we now have a really world-class facility in Midleton.
mm,
We've really step changed the offering there. So that gives us a particular focus on 2025 with this. Yeah, I think if we hadn't have closed with the flood, 2024, we would have had that full year into the season.
yeah,
2025 is going to be the first full year of Midleton, so that gives us great reason to be optimistic. And our business development and marketing team are out there talking about our new brand home. 2025 is also a very special year for Midleton, even if we didn't have the new brand home, because distilling started on the site in Midleton in 1825.
oh
So
wow,
2025 is the 200th anniversary of
yeah,
distilling on the Midleton site. So that's
yeah,
something that we're making some plans to mark and to celebrate our history and the heritage of the site and the people. So that's something that we're excited about as well. Bow Street won't stand still either. We are continually developing our Bow
yeah.
Street offering. And so we're optimistic as we look ahead in terms of, I suppose, what I referenced earlier in terms of both our volume of visitors, but also that sort of value piece as well.
Yeah. And even what you say about, investing in Bow Street, I mean, you're a very good example of you can't stand still. You constantly have to reinvest in the product, in the interpretation, because, visitor expectations are high. And if you want to meet those expectations or exceed them, as you do all the time, you have to ensure your product and your experience is constantly renovated.
Yeah, but the Bow Street was majorly redeveloped in 2016, 2017. So we don't need to have that major redevelopment that we've had recently in Midleton. But absolutely right, and I think all of us in the industry know that we just have to keep redeveloping, keep reinvesting in the business. So in Bow Street recently, we have added, I mentioned that new experience, the taste table experience. So we're always looking at our experience offering. We have a beautiful gallery area in Bow Street. So we've managed to, I suppose, subdivide and pick a part of the building that we actually think needs some attention. So we've done a major development of it in the last 12 months to make it more engaging. So just that sense of that we're always, looking at, we're an unusual business that way. My background has traditionally been in more commercial parts of the business, but we spend as much time looking at our consumer feedback as we
Yeah,
do at our financials. And we have a very detailed dashboard of consumer feedback of just trying to work out how we can optimize and how we can improve. And then we build that into our plan. So
yeah.
I think you have to keep looking at what the consumer is saying and evolving.
Yeah, great. Well, listen, congratulations, Greg, to you and the team, particularly on the reopening at Midleton, and best of luck for the year ahead.
Thank you very much, Owen. Good talking to you.